This is purely an overview of miniVAN. If you want a little refresher, I'm happy to share this with you. We always use shortcuts in our naming conventions. We have VAN and we have miniVAN. They are different. VAN, which stands for the Voter Activation Network, is this huge database that the Democratic Party maintains to keep information about registered voters. It's how we know who to contact in our outreach efforts. miniVAN is a smartphone app that we use when we canvass or do phone banking or any other type of voter outreach where we can record our interaction with those voters. It's a great way to digitally move data. We move data from VAN to miniVAN for purposes of outreach. And then when we have that outreach, we can digitally move data back into VAN to help future outreach efforts. In the olden days, which was like 2 or 3 years ago, we used paper, and we don't have to anymore. And that's a good thing. In VAN, we have all the big data in VAN. An outreach organizer will use VAN to create a list of voters that we want to contact. In this case, it was Lori, who created lists that identified voters who voted in the general election, but not the primary, and the newly registered ones. So in this case, that was a criteria from which we pulled data from VAN. And VAN, based on what the work that Lori did, creates a list number. Each PC or person doing the outreach will be given a list number, and they just key that into their phone, and the miniVAN will pull data from VAN and put it into their smartphone app. So it's super easy to get those lists to the people that are doing outreach. Then the PC will use that app as in this case, knock on doors or drop flyers. They'll record what their interaction is with each voter, and they'll put it into the miniVAN. Then the PCs will sync miniVAN, and the data goes back to VAN. Again, so that data can be used for future outreach efforts. And we know how much interaction we're having with voters, which is important. So again, we have this digital flow of data, which is very efficient and easy. So what are the benefits of using miniVAN? It really simplifies distribution. PC will get a packet of information, and they will provide to each PC that they work with a list number. That provides all the data that PC will need. The nuts and bolts of the information you need to talk to a voter will be right there in miniVAN. The miniVAN has mapping. In the paper version, I don't know if you remember this, but they were typically sorted by street name, which isn't very helpful when you're trying to plan a route for reaching out to people. So miniVAN has built-in mapping using Google Maps, so you can much more efficiently figure out how you're going to do your route to touch base with your voters. Within miniVAN, there's a lot of information about each voter. You can get age, gender, just a lot of information that's there. And having that information before you knock on the door is really helpful. It supports your outreach. It can support your initial contact with a voter. So it's nice to have. And then it facilitates tracking of the outcomes. In the past, people would have to manually write their interaction on the piece of paper. Those lists, that paper would be collected. You'd have to, as a PC, as a person doing the outreach, you'd have to get it back to the organizers. And then there was a lot of data entry on the back end that the person doing the voter outreach really wasn't aware of, but had to happen. Now that all goes away. It just happens through that digital transfer of data. Okay, so getting prepared to use miniVAN. Hopefully, all of you have used miniVAN in the past. If you and you have it on your phone already. If you haven't, it's super easy. You just go to your device's app store. I'm an Android user, so I go to Play Store, my app store on the Apple. It's the Apple's app store. And you just look up miniVAN, and it'll pop up, and you can download it to your device. if you've previously used an action ID, that's for using van or miniVAN, you can log into the miniVAN app using that action ID that you already have, even if you haven't used it for a long time. Again, if you can't remember your password, like many apps, there's a means of getting you on despite that. So you just follow the instructions on the app. And same with if you do not have an action ID yet, the app will provide prompts that will get you to be able to create an action ID. So I know this can sometimes be cumbersome. If you are having problems with it, I think your first point of contact would be your precinct lead. And if that doesn't work, you can contact Linda or Nancy or me or other people that you know who are more comfortable with miniVAN. It does have a kind of a built-in mechanism to support you in that process. So hopefully it won't be difficult. So if you need more help, again, your first point of contact should be your precinct lead. And if the precinct lead isn't able to help you, contact Linda or Nancy, and they will be able to help you, or they will find somebody who can help you.